Hello and welcome to the Southeastern 14 live stream. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Blake Lovell, Blayne Gilmer. We are going to talk about this week's slate of games. We're going to talk about whatever comes up in the chat, and this is usually a listener-driven show. So we try to talk about what you guys want to talk about, answer your questions. We did do a little basketball content earlier in the day. So if you want your fill of that, we had a good, like 30 or 40 minutes this morning.
Yeah, on it's media day in SEC basketball. So if anyone is thinking about basketball just yet, we did do quite a bit of discussion on that. So you can find that on the channel. So plenty to discuss there.
Yeah. Our matchups this week, we've got probably the big one, Ole Miss going to LSU. We've got Mississippi State heading to a pretty ticked off Alabama. We got Texas A&M going to South Carolina, a game that I think is sneakily intriguing. We got Vandy trying to snap an SEC losing streak in Columbia, and we got that big hated rivalry between the in-state UTs, UT Martin and UT Knoxville. That will be a game for about 30 seconds. And anyway, but we will talk about all of them. Hey, our buddy
Don't
Tyler
jinx him, Chris. Here. Don't jinx him. Volunteered 77. Listen, you got to appreciate your top 10 basketball team. All right. You got a top 3 football team. You got a top 10 basketball team. This is your time to gloat in all sports. Your baseball team's not going to be too bad either. So, they're doing pretty well there in Knoxville, Chris. Speaking of doing well, Tyler, are you going to give us the update or what?
Yeah, Tyler, we need to know.
I mean, what's the update here?
No baby when the field goal went through.
None. What's going on? So
we were thinking Saturday could be very interesting for our man Tyler.
Yeah, well.
Volunteer 70 or D77, we talk basketball because we are not just a football channel. We take baseball and basketball very seriously. So we try to get you ready for that too. We will not be talking that tonight on this show unless people would like to talk about it, but I have a feeling everybody's head is still in football. So in any case, before we get going tonight, awful day at Mississippi State. Sam Westmoreland, one of their football players, died today. He leaves behind parents Amanda and Josh Westmoreland. He has a sister, Marilyn. Just it's heartbreaking anytime someone dies that soon. We all are parents. I cannot imagine the heartbreak his are going through. So say a prayer tonight for the Westmoreland family. When you see Mississippi State play a game or flash up on the screen the next few weeks, just say a little prayer. I do think those matter, and just heartbroken to hear that. Blake, you and I have covered a tragedy or two in our sports media careers, and those are things that kind of shake you to your core.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, we have certainly covered those, and they are not in any way something you want to cover. So yeah, absolutely, I echo everything you said. So
yeah, in all seriousness, prayers to his family, to the Mississippi State community. Those are not things that just heal overnight, and you see those, and they just take your breath away when they happen. Anyway, moving on to football and other things, Tyler says he's I'm just going to put this in the chat. I think that's what you were reading earlier.
The knuckleball.
That was one of the most interesting ways they could win that football. I mean, Alabama gets a hand on it. It looks like it's just for all the world going to just flutter short, and it just perseveres through the Knoxville air through the goalposts. That was unbelievable.
Tim
Yeah.
Wakefield watched that kick and was proud.
Oh yeah, I thought SEC Shorts described it as somebody who slung a loaf of sourdough bread Frisbee style thing went through there. I mean that was a great line right there by SEC Shorts. That was really good.
I meant to watch that this week. Those guys are so good.
They are. They've really hit a stride there. Man, we already got a lot of comments, guys. While you're in here, go ahead and drop us a like. That helps out with algorithms and all such things that we don't really understand, but YouTube likes.
Nor can we pronounce.
Yeah, I can't pronounce algorithm apparently. So,
yeah, a lot of stuff to get to here in this hour. Like you said, Chris, there's a lot of. I mean, this is not. Well, I'll say this is not probably the best slate that we've seen this season. But
Tyler has the most SEC appropriate comment here. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, there you go.
Pitched at Tennessee.
There's a good tie there. But yeah, I mean, like we said, I think there's two clear games of the week, I believe, and there's the other one. We talked about South Carolina and A&M, and kind of that's pretty intriguing from that standpoint. And then there's the other game, Chris, the SEC game, the Missouri Vanderbilt game. That, judging by, this is always a good gauge for us, right? Is we can tell how much interest there is in a game by how interactive you guys are and in our prediction videos and all that. And I think Vanderbilt, Missouri is on pace to be our worst video of the year in terms of interest, which I don't think is all that surprising when you think about it. But again, Chris, like we keep saying, anytime a team that is the 13th in your power rankings is favored by 2 touchdowns over the 14 team, not an ideal spot to be in there. So that's my comments for that game tonight. If anyone else wants to discuss it, there are probably other channels that would like to do so.
Let's see who can be the first in the chat to tell us the last SEC game Vandy won.
All right. While we're waiting on that, why don't we start with LSU Ole Miss? Because that is clearly the game of the week for a lot of people, just based on the, I think kind of where these two teams are at right now. And again, I'm not knocking the Alabama Mississippi State one, but I think in terms of just the overall intrigue, I think this is the one that you look at clearly, Blayne, and I think there's a lot of kind of fun possibilities with this one.
There are. Real quick though, Tyler keeps rolling them in here. Loser has to join the MAC. That's great on Vandy and Missouri. But you're right. The matchup between Ole Miss and LSU, you said intriguing for many different reasons, and I think so as well, especially with, you have a team that, people like to just look at the win-loss column a lot of times when they're comparing teams, especially if it's maybe not their own team or somebody they follow closely, and they say, oh, well, they've got 2 losses, LSU, but man, they just played a game where they looked the best they have all year. They got a little running game going. Jaden Daniels looked like someone who I am getting more and more in the camp of Jaden Daniels, as I think he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback with his skill set that he has. And I just quite frankly, they've played a tougher schedule than Ole Miss has. Ole Miss has not really been that tested other than a Kentucky team who was, had some things going on at that point in time, and they got Kentucky at home. Going on the road to Death Valley, Chris, I think is a monumental challenge for LSU. For Ole Miss.
I think it's a terrific game. I feel like I don't have a good read on LSU week to week. As Blake pointed out, Ole Miss has not played a particularly challenging schedule outside of Kentucky. I still like Ole Miss to win this game. I'm not going to call it blind faith because Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin has got a pretty nice track record the last couple of years, but you haven't seen them go on the road and beat a team like they're about to face. But I just like their offense. I like the versatility of their offense. I'm not as sold on their defense as I was. I'm beginning to think that nice start, was the product of a weak schedule, but still, Ole Miss is better than it was a year and a half ago defensively. And I just think their offense is so tough to stop with all that it can do.
I think that line is moving in LSU's direction. I could be wrong. I want to say it started at 1.5, maybe, guys, or was that on the other side? I'm trying to remember what
It was LSU 1.5 to start that I saw.
The first, originally in some places, they did that, like some different books, depending on where you found it. Ole Miss was a 1.5 point road favorite, and then it crossed 0 in a hurry, and LSU has become a favorite at home. I just look at, okay, Ole Miss gave up 300 yards rushing to Auburn, and people want to say, oh, well, people love to come to the defense of Lane Kiffin's defense. Oh, well, there's this guy out and there's that guy out. And against Tulsa, they were preparing for a passing offense and they got a running offense with the quarterback once the guy got hurt. Either you can adjust and you can play defense. And in the SEC, I believe you can do two things. You can run the football when you need to, and you can stop the run when you need to, or you can't. Clearly, Ole Miss can run the football. I'm not confident in their ability to stop the run. Hence why I think that LSU will be able to stay in this game late. And I think if you're staying in this game late with a crowd in Death Valley that is going to it's not an 11 o'clock game like Tennessee where they're still rubbing the sleep out of their eyes. They're going to have a good opportunity to get the system nice and lubricated, if you will, and get going down there in Baton Rouge. So I think this plays into LSU's hands a little bit.
Here's a question for you. Chris, I called, we did our midseason awards, by the way. If you haven't seen those, we did those on, what was that, Tuesday, Monday? I don't know. I said I thought Jaden Daniels would probably be my most underrated player, even though that's coming off a 6 touchdown game, but that would have been my answer going into that game in terms of I think like Blayne has said, I think the guy is really starting to become, he's coming into his own. But here's an interesting thought though. I think Jackson Dart is pretty underrated in terms of what he started to do in terms of getting comfortable in that offense as well. And I think this is kind of that fun matchup because I want to say we did our quarterback ranking several weeks ago. We had these two guys right beside each other. And I think now you kind of look at that too. That's something else I find interesting heading into this one. How does Jackson Dart play? That's going to be talked about. We're going to talk about the Ole Miss running game, but I think that's a bigger one to me. Is I'm very curious to see, what this offense looks like. Him, in the passing game, if by some chance, they're not running the ball 50 times, which, again, that's their strength. We've seen that, but I find this quarterback matchup even more interesting than certainly it would have been had we looked at it, even a month ago, probably.
Yeah, Jackson Dart is very talented. He is also prone to making some really brain-dead throws at times in the coverage. So I think ball security is going to be a big thing down there. Someone mentioned LSU special teams. I think someone did in the chat.
I'll get to it in a second as well.
Oh, here we go. Hunter did. And he's right because like LSU fumbles the opening kickoff. I think it hits off Jake Besh's chest, and Tennessee recovers right there at the 20 and really never looked back. LSU special teams are not good. So that's something to consider. Yep.
By the way, shout out to Rusty, who was here. Arkansas with a week off, a much needed week off, I think, for the Hogs. Coming off that win against BYU. So good to see you here, Rusty. Enjoy the games this week. Also, SEC football back with our first super chat of the night. And before we get to that, real quickly, you can leave yourself a super chat if you want. Hit that little heart button there with a little $sign in it. That just contributes to the channel, helps us do more videos for you guys. So we appreciate it as always, SEC football. Yeah, Vols ranked number 11 in the AP poll in basketball. Like I told Volunteered earlier. Vols are top 10 and pretty much everything, it seems like, at this point. So
yeah, number 4 in KenPom, or was it 2? No, it was 2 in Bart Torvik, and I think 4 in KenPom. So the computers like the Vols even better than the humans do. So there's that if you didn't know.
Picked third in the SEC behind Kentucky and Arkansas. So
Hey, here's a factor for Ole Miss and LSU. The disappearing act at wide receiver of Kayshawn. I have a mental block on this.
Kayshawn Booty.
Booty?
Blayne will pronounce it for you.
Booty?
He has made it clear. It is Booty. It is Booty. So Kayshawn Booty is how he wants to pronounce. And hey, he had his best performance of the year against Florida. So if he's back and he's rolling, here's how you'll know. Okay, you'll know what kind of day it's going to be for Ole Miss, because they have not been great this year. They have, because like I said, just a lack of talent that they've played against, in my opinion. But they allowed guys like Barry and Brown at times and things like that to hurt them in Kentucky in key situations. I think this is undoubtedly the most talented wide receiver core that they will have faced top to bottom. Look at guys like Brian Thomas, Kayshawn Booty, all that. But if you see Jaden Daniels ripping some, 15, 20, 25-yard completions early and getting Kayshawn Booty involved, I think it's going to be a long day for Ole Miss in terms of that. And here's the other thing, Chris. Jackson Dart in his last 3 games is only completing 51% of his passes. He's 37. He's 37 of 72 in the last 3 games. I just think at some point LSU, whether it's LSU or somebody's going to come, they're going to commit 7, 8 guys to the box and say, okay, you are not going to beat us running the football. Jackson Dart, let's see how you can do completing the ball to Jonathan Mingo and these guys, and see if he can be accurate enough. I think BJ Ojolari and the LSU front can create some pressure. I don't know. I'm just if Ole Miss goes on the road and wins at Death Valley, I've been doubting Ole Miss all year. If they go here, I'll officially tip my cap and be a Ole Miss believer. But I just don't see them getting it done this weekend. I think LSU is kind of hitting a little stride here.
Blayne, what was that stat again? The last 3 games?
37 of 72.
Are you sure? Because he's 25 of 32 against Vandy.
So I may have skipped Vandy. The games I was going here were Kentucky against Kentucky. So we know Vandy doesn't count. You said that.
Vandy does not have a pass defense any better than the 3 of us.
So against Auburn, against Florida, or not Florida. I'm looking at Ole Miss. Against Auburn, against Kentucky, and against Tulsa, he was 37 of 72 passing the football. So
yeah, I mean, look, I have some doubts.
Still has 8 touchdowns in that group too, though, I guess. I mean, and the rushing yards, which is different, right? But that's I think Blayne is bringing up an interesting point to think about for sure, because he's not wrong on the numbers. So yeah.
Well, he's also the aptly named Jackson Dart because he can throw them. He was the number 1 or 2 quarterback recruit a couple of years ago. I mean, there's a lot of talent there. I mean, and again, I criticized him a minute ago because I've seen him throw some bad balls, but there's that also.
We'll see on the road. It's going to be an interesting matchup for sure.
Ole Miss has been on the road to Vandy and Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech has gotten a lot better since they were
still playing to get Jeff Collins fired at that point. The team had banded together
and doing a good job of it.
They said, we've got to get Jeff Collins fired. And now that he is, they've decided to play for Brent Key a little bit.
By the way, shout out to SEC football once again, $2 super chat. I think Chris and I picked Ole Miss. I said by the slightest of margins. I think this will be just a really good game, I would expect. But yeah, I think siding with Blayne is always a pretty decent shot there. Blayne, the go-to guy, the Ric Flair, I like to call him, of our
no.
not the Ric Flair. What else we got here, guys? Anything else on Ole Miss, LSU? And we will obviously, if you guys want to discuss it in the chat, we can discuss more of it a little bit later on. But we'll also talk some Bama, Mississippi State here in just a second, probably.
Well, you know me and my stats. per pass play, Ole Miss is giving up 5.3 if you take sacks out. The other thing is sacks themselves. Ole Miss has 19. LSU has given up 22. So I mentioned turnovers earlier in the broadcast. And so a lot of times the way you get sacks or the way you get turnovers is through sacks. LSU has been giving them up. Ole Miss has been getting them. That's one reason I like Ole Miss to win this one. I think that Ole Miss has got a shot at LSU where it struggles. So
I will say, though, 5 of those sacks came against Tennessee when they had Will Campbell out and their starting left guard out. They've gotten healthier on that left side of the line of scrimmage. I don't know. I'm saying LSU takes it. I'm going all in with LSU on this. I'll go down swinging on Ole Miss.
That's still 17 sacks in 6 games. That's still, even take that out, that's still a lot of sacks. But
yeah, for sure. So we'll see that. But we got a comment here on Alabama and well, just basically one on Alabama from Brock. If you see it in the start one there, Blake. He's glad they lost. He says, "I'm glad they lost. That he saw it coming." Needed to regroup. I guess Jermaine Burton is officially suspended. I didn't know that coming into tonight. I know Saban had said that they're reviewing it internally. Well, guess what? You don't have to review it internally. It's all over the internet.
that was not a good look.
So, I don't know. What do you guys? I mean, we all think that the numbers, the history, everything says Alabama, takes care of business, of course, with Mississippi State coming into town, but my goodness, can they get a number 1 wide receiver really rolling? That's something that Alabama's not used to the last couple of years.
Yeah. I said this last week. I liked Alabama to win at Tennessee in a close game because I just said, when's the last time that Alabama just really underachieved? And that may not sound fair to Tennessee, but if Alabama loses a game to anybody anytime, it's kind of an underachievement for where that bar is. And they, after darn near losing to Texas A&M at home, they go and lose in Knoxville. So, I mean, we can see the issues as we see them. We can see where this Alabama team does not match up to some of the ones before. Does that mean this isn't a playoff caliber team? No, it doesn't. Our bar has just been set so ridiculously high that it's easy to see when things are not what they have been. So anyway.
No, I agree. I don't know. Here's what we don't know about Alabama. In the past, there was when they face teams who are the teams that make it to the college football playoff most of the time. They're teams that have elite defensive fronts that are going to shut down the run and make you one-dimensional. Well, Alabama was so good in the passing game in the past years that it didn't matter if you made them one-dimensional. They still had a Jameson Williams that could run right by you, or a John Mechie who could just carve you up, or Ruggs, whoever else over the years, Devonta Smith wins a Heisman over there. So they could just throw one after another at you. And now they're dealing with people who, are very good college football players, highly ranked, but Blake, they appear to be mere mortals as to future Hall of Famers that are going over there. And I think it gives people, more confidence to be able to say, okay, we'll take our chances. We know Bryce Young's really good, but now we got to turn our attention to this Gibbs guy who can rattle one off at any time.
Yeah, it's unusual to think that Alabama players are human, but yes, it seems like there may be some actual humans on this team. No, I mean this. We talk about the history of this particular game, right? And I think we brought it up in the preview, looking at some of the numbers. Like, let's just call it what it is. I mean, Alabama has been pretty good against Mississippi State, to say the least, as of late. And, if you look at some of the trends, I mean, Mississippi State has just not played well in Tuscaloosa, period, dating back probably I don't know, they're 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games in
To the
Tuscaloosa.
Sylvester Croom days.
I mean, I could probably go back and look even further to see that. I'm going to do that in a second, but that's the thing. And I think you can look at some of the things with Alabama coming off that loss. You can look at Mississippi State, their loss at Kentucky. But it just seems like it just sets up for one of those Nick Saban bounce back games. That's the other thing. I saw that stat floating around. I've got to find it. But what Alabama has done under Saban in games after losses, and I think it's a pretty ridiculous number from what I can remember off the top of my head.
I'm
but
sure it's a 0 to the right of the dash. I mean,
well,
when's the last time they lost 2 in a row?
I don't mean just the wins though. I mean how they win, like in terms of the
Crush your soul.
the
Yeah.
deficit of the scoring margin. Like it's pretty ridiculous from what I can remember. I'm going to find that too here in a second, but yeah, like that's what I think is something that you can look at. So
I think the term is a skull dragging. I mean, just absolute savagery on the behind those losses.
Let's pull up some comments
Croom,
here.
That's a name that we haven't see. State's coaches since Croom going
Dan
backwards. Mullen, Joe Moorhead. Who was in between, or was it Croom?
I don't know.
Was Croom the guy before Mullen?
Mullen was back in the DAC years, so he was there.
14-ish?
There was somebody. I think there was somebody in between Sylvester and Mullen, if I do believe, but I can look it up real quick.
Think of who it is. Sylvester Croom. Well, you pulled that one out of mothballs.
Hey, I liked Sylvester Croom's prominent mustache. That was great. It was
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I've always enjoyed, because when you used to watch Mississippi State football, it was you knew you were going to get Dave Neal on the call, and I enjoyed Dave Neal on the call. Absolutely, great stuff there. So yeah, they're going back in order. It was Croom, good. So listen, hey, I've always enjoyed. I used to, as a Falcons fan in the NFL, Jarius Norwood, used to love him. Watch him for Mississippi State, a heck of a player. So we can go back in the time machine for Mississippi State, football all we want to. But my question for you guys is, with Mississippi State, we saw that Tennessee was able to formation, Jalen Hyatt in ways where they could get him lined up on safeties and things like that. I'm not sure how to pronounce Griffin's first name. I think it's Letedrick. Do you think they're able to use some of those explosive receivers, whether it's Rod Thomas or whether it's Letedrick Griffin, some of those guys who have big, yards per catch, yards per reception totals already this year for Mississippi State to create some chunk plays against Alabama? It's a copycat league. I mean, Mike Leach is no dummy. You think he'll be able to scheme up some of that Alabama struggled with last week?
I mean, Chris, I'm trying to find the game by game for the series here.
Well, I mean, the way that Tennessee just threw at will against them last week, I know it's a different type of offense, but yeah, man, I don't know that Will Rogers is going to throw for 4 bills on them, but you're concerned if you're Alabama, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, my best bet of the week is taking the over 60.5 in this game. I'm taking the over 60.5 between the two teams.
Here's the thing that I think probably doesn't get looked at a lot, but you remember we talked about how much trouble Kentucky had in running the ball. I mean, Kentucky had not run the ball on anybody all year. And then Chris Rodriguez goes for just, a couple inches shy of 200 in that game. State is giving up 5.5 yards per carry if you take sacks out of it. What do you think Alabama is going to do over and over and over again in this one, knowing that?
Oh, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get his touches in this one. And, I do a little show with Tavares King and Sean Marino, and we were all singing the praises of Gibbs and saying he's kind of our pick to click this week because, just like I said with Mike Leach, he's no dummy, and he can do some copycat stuff with what Heupel maybe was able to do to that Alabama secondary. Well, Saban and Bill O'Brien are no dummies either, and they're going to see, hey, Kentucky just eviscerated them running the football. I think that Alabama will try to do the same, especially if there's some uncertainty with Jermaine Burton out wide, and they don't know. They may get Tyler Harrell back, they may not. We'll see. So, especially if you got some inconsistency at wide receiver, give the ball to the best player, not named Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's not a bad recipe.
All right, here you go. Alabama, Mississippi State have played 14 times since 2008. By the way, Nick Saban's first year was 2007, I believe. Is that right?
Sounds right.
Mississippi State won that game. Since then, 2008, they played 14 times. We know who's won the game every time, right? But Mississippi State has only scored more than 10 points twice in the last 14 meetings here between these two teams. So
it's been brutal when these teams
have
played.
It's not even point differential. Go back to last year, 40, 41, 31, 24, 7, 48, 25. So again, if you're just looking at the series history here, it's not been in Mississippi State's favor by any means. So I think that's why if you're looking at how this game could play out, here's a pretty big chunk of a sample size of kind of what we've seen in this series history. And again, teams are different every year, but it is pretty one-sided. So
okay,
yeah,
we're going to have a quick word from our sponsor, and while I'm giving it, I need you guys to come up with some good prop bets. They're not really bets because there's no cost to. They're not bets at stakes. It's just for fun, but something on this Alabama State game besides the spread.
There's your one
question we have in there.
There's your one from
that might be the one we put in there. 130 might be too low, but anyway, we are talking about stakes. The title sponsor of our chancel. Or chancel, where did that come from? Our chancel.
That is,
see, it's getting. You couldn't speak earlier, and now it is.
I've still got to mispronounce something before this is over with. I'll find a word conveniently
We've got
somewhere.
to get 30 minutes left.
All right.
Anyway, college football season is getting underway. The best place to make your sports predictions without risking bankroll is stakes. Predict anything in the game. Take the game time excitement to the next level. When you compete with your friends and other fans on the Stakes app, during their weekly competitions, you can build your predictions track record by winning competitions and earning NFT trophies for making the perfect calls. Go to playwithstakes.com/14. Use the invite code Southeastern 14 and sign up for a double welcome bonus. Okay, I think I'll put the prop bet in. What was it at? Was that 130 rushing yards or was that total offense for Jahmyr Gibbs?
That was rushing yards.
In the chat.
That was rushing yards.
Let's do that.
There's one from Tyler.
I'll put that in the app while we are speaking, and people can go.
He says Bryce Young over 4. We'll throw 4 touchdowns, so you'd have to put that at the over 3.5. Over under 3.5. This one he's being facetious with. He said Will Anderson may have 8 sacks, so that would.
I'm going to take the under on that one.
Kenny,
Chris,
who was it on? It was that Kenny Mayne on SportsCenter. You say that not in one game that would be a record. When he used to list off his stat.
Kenny Mayne was so good.
Back when SportsCenter was awesome.
Back when people watched it.
Yeah, for sure.
When's the last time you watched SportsCenter?
I mean, it's been on, but I haven't really watched it. I remember I was 8 years old when McGuire and Sosa were going through the home run race back and forth, and I used to wake up every morning just to I'd have it going while I'm doing homework and eating breakfast and stuff just to see what happened. And Stuart Scott, all those guys, Kenny Mayne. That was the golden era back there. So it's good stuff.
Those were good times. Okay, I'll put this Gibbs bet in the app. Let people vote on that. It's at Stakes, STAKES. Blake, I'll let you read the comments and talk among yourselves while I'm doing this because you all know I cannot do two things at once.
All right, well, we're going to get to some stuff that I have starred here that came up from earlier, and Blayne and I can discuss some of this. But again, keep sending in if you have any fun props, let us know in the comments, and we will get to them. But one thing here, let's go ahead and get to this one, Blayne, because we were going to talk about this game at some point. But the SEC football, once again, nice $2 super chat. This South Carolina A&M game we talked about in our preview. A lot of just I told you guys, like I think there's so many different ways this game could play out. But in wanting to know like why is this spread as close as it is? I mean, I think it's just even after that Kentucky win, right, Blayne? I mean, I think we're still trying to figure out what South Carolina is, because I hate to keep bringing this up, but like that was a different Kentucky team without Will Levis, and now you come into this. South Carolina's been playing better, I think, specifically defensively, but A&M played well against Alabama. It's a loss, but they were, again, one play away from having a chance to win. So that's probably why this thing is where it's at.
Also, too, South Carolina was just eviscerated on the defensive side of the ball by defense. By injuries on the defensive side earlier in the year. They had a bye week. They've been able to get some depth back. And also, too, I think Vegas is just simply looking at how Haynes King throws a football, his throwing motion that is like straight up in the air right there.
How many times have we done this on the streams this year?
So they're knocking.
How does that go? I would like to see a demo of that again.
They're knocking it. Well, it's like straight up. Who does that? Who holds the ball straight up like that? It's odd. So, anyways,
Uncle Rico. That's who.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. So I think and too, there's whispers of Connor Wegman has been getting reps, with the ones over there as a freshman. If Haynes King is injured to a certain extent, like it's rumored he may have been in that Alabama game, if he can't go full speed, if he gets knocked out of that game, well, then you got a freshman coming in with sandstorm blaring and the white towels and the environment that is really a raucous environment over there in Columbia. I like South Carolina in this one. I think South Carolina will be able to get Marshawn Lloyd going a little bit. But the whole key to this, Chris, is Spencer Rattler going to be the turnover machine, as you've pointed out, or are they able to get him some efficient throws early and get him some confidence?
Well, that's an interesting one, because I think we all love A&M's secondary. However, it's only gotten 2 picks. I think that's an aberration. They have only got 10 sacks too, which I know it's a younger defensive line. Carolina's given up 13. I mean, I feel like this is a game that's really hard to read. Part of me just says, no disrespect to South Carolina, but everybody knows A&M is a young and talented team, and sometimes that just takes time to gel. And I think the question I had leaving the Alabama game was, did we get to see that first big step in that, or was that just sort of a matchup fluke that for whatever reason A&M has sort of got Alabama's number? I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see. And Carolina, I'm with you guys. It's hard to get a read on, because even though Rattler's been turning the ball over left and right, even though they had some injuries, this is a team that's still won some games. And we all know about Shane Beamer's last year, where he took a team and when it had seemingly nothing to play for and not a lot of talent, and got 4 straight wins or something like that to end the season. Maybe not 4 straight, because Clemson would have been there at the very end, but you know what I mean? They brought it at the end of the season when there didn't seem to be much to play for or much talent there. And that's the thing that always I always am sort of curious as to how to value them.
And mayonnaise slung on their head and everything at the end. It was just all kinds of momentum going on. Gave Beamer a little CTE there with the cooler hitting him in the head. Now he's wearing sunglasses and turning his hat backwards. All kinds of stuff going on. But I listen, I think that you asked me who I believe in to get their team to play harder in this set of circumstances environment. I'm going with Shane Beamer. That's what I'm thinking.
Here's the thing.
The correct answer for me is I wouldn't touch this game. I do not have a read on it. Sorry, Blake.
No, I mean, I think A&M's defense is good enough to keep them in most games, and I think that's why the spread. Now, look, you can point out the Mississippi State game, right? But that was one game of the season, and I just thought that was a bad spot. Anyways, we talked about that. That just seemed like just the worst spot they could be in, outside of maybe going to Tennessee or something. I think their defense is good enough to keep them in games. That's why I think you see this. If you're just laying around the spread standpoint, A&M's a 3-point favorite here. The under's hit in 5 of their 6 games this season, meaning that you're going to get a lower scoring game, which means more than likely the number is going to stay closer together. So I think it's just, but what can they get offensively? That's obviously the question we've talked about for weeks now. And meanwhile, on the other side, I think South Carolina, I hate to say like the word sneaky, right? Because they did beat Kentucky at Kentucky, but they have been playing better. And I think that's something that you can't ignore. But I'm with you, Chris. I would want no part of this game if I was a professional bettor, just because I think that you look at these two teams, and I think A&M's still good enough to win a game like this. And I picked them. I said again by the slightest of margins with this one too. But I don't know. South Carolina has been playing better. So yeah.
Hey, if Carolina wins this one, there's a pretty nice little path to 8-4. Missouri and Vandy coming up next, and a road
And
trip
now
to
it
Florida
all
that's
comes
winnable.
full circle, 8-4, because that's what Texas A&M goes every year is 8-4. So if that is what leads South Carolina, how appropriate.
Well, if South Carolina is going 8-4, A&M is probably going to be losing more than 4. But anyway,
We
might see that number pop up in the future.
By the way, I'll tell you who's going to win this weekend. That's going to be the Hogs, because they're not playing. So Hog Barbecue, they're going to win.
Win the bye.
They're winning the bye week just by getting a week off, I think. So, Chris, we'll touch on this quickly. I had a couple of these come in earlier that I'm going to bring up. UT Martin and Tennessee. We're not going to spend long on this game, but I know there are Tennessee fans in here, so we will quickly mention it. Tell us something about Tennessee Martin. Well, they're the Skyhawks.
I'll tell you something about Tennessee Martin. Their head coach, is the father of Ty Simpson, who is Alabama's should be second stringer over Jalen Milroe, in my opinion. And he apparently agreed, because there was a lot of tweets that were going on out there, and he liked them and he retweeted them on accident. And he forgot that, other people can see those. So they got him in a little hot water over there too. But Ty Simpson's father, I think his name is Jeff, is the head coach of the UT Martin Skyhawks over there.
By the way, their quarterback, Dresser Wynn, which I just think is a great name. If you're looking for a common or a couple things, they played Boise State, right, Chris? They lost, I think I'm pulling up here, 30-7.
30-7.
Missouri State. Now, remember, Missouri State played with Auburn for quite a while. Or not Auburn, Arkansas. I'm sorry. And that was a game. So that was a 35-30 game. So UT Martin lost to Missouri State 35-30. Now that was a month and a half ago almost now. Since then, they've beaten Lindenwood, Tennessee Tech, and Murray State, which I think I know a couple of those teams have not won many games. I can't say was for certain about all three, but so that's probably the best I can tell you on UT Martin. So yeah, they're offensively they're not bad. So what's that?
Lindenwood has a football team?
Well, if they didn't, then there were a bunch of people kind of like, what was that? The whole scam? Just a bunch of guys that formed a team and called themselves Lindenwood. What was the high school? What was that high school that did the scam?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I don't know if it's high school. Maybe it's college. I don't know.
It was a high school team that played IMG, and ESPN didn't catch it, and they let
what it was.
Team
what
play.
Was the name of that team? Somebody tell me in the comments. I guarantee you somebody knows, and they're going to find it before I can even look it up. But yeah, so Boise State. Yeah, I mean, Boise State's not. I'm not saying they were bad. I'm just telling you that was the result. So Bishop Sycamore. There you go. That was the one I was thinking of.
Yes,
coming in clutch on that too. So, yeah. So, no. Brandon brings. I mean, look, Boise State's. Yeah, they're not bad at all. But
they're not. They're not what Boise State's been.
Well, but I'm just saying, if you're looking at it from really,
they're
Missouri,
just waiting for Brian Harsin to come back home. Well, that's all they're waiting for. They will welcome Brian Harsin back with open arms.
Chuck, the Alabama fan, he's going Martin over Tennessee this week. So we'll see. Listen, Chuck, you can come back in and gloat all you want if that happens. So we will give you
Chuck, if you get that one right, we will let you host the podcast and bow at your feet. How about that?
Steven's going to say UT Martin's going to cover. Well, I don't even know what the points are, Chris. I don't know if we ever even looked that
We
up.
couldn't find one. I mean,
Yeah,
I think Sagarin had it at 39 if you
Yeah, I
take
think
his
that's
3-point home field and his predictor. So
we said I think UT Martin can score some points here. It's just what do you get from Tennessee mindset wise, and I think it's a good point about the potential letdown, especially early on. But I just think offensively, I don't expect much of a letdown from Tennessee offensively. Maybe on the defensive side, but I just don't see it. So we'll see. All right, Hayden's going to go Gamecocks, but big here over A&M by 2 touchdowns. So.
would it shock you?
I don't think anything would shock me with A&M at this point. Like any results.
I just don't know how unless they make so you got 2 things here. You got a bunch of young guys that have huge NIL deals, and that is not an exaggeration. These guys, this is concrete deals. Okay. There's some of these players that are getting $20,000 a month legally through NIL deals over there. And when you get that, Nick Saban said it the best when he was at a coaching clinic. He was the head coach of the Dolphins. He was like, the owner called me up and said, "Hey, I'm about to give this guy $10 million signing bonus. Do you think he's worth it?" And Nick Saban said, "I don't think any of them are worth it." He said, "But if you pay him that signing bonus, he will be our starting right corner." So here's the thing. You're paying these guys this money. They've got to play. They got to be productive. So you've got to balance that with playing all the young talent that A&M has with trying to manage the upper part of that roster that maybe wasn't part of the NIL train when it came in, and how you manage the expectations, the motivation. You've already lost some games, stuff like that. So I think it's just fascinating to see how Jimbo Fisher navigates the rest of this year.
Yeah, but they're also not the only team that's doing that. Now, theirs might be an extreme, but
oil
yes.
money, baby. There's
By the
some
way,
big oil money.
We got a lot of people watching this right now. So the problem is we only have 16 likes on this thing. So if you're watching this channel, you're enjoying our discussion here, hit that like button. That Blayne said earlier, that does a lot for us. And so, yeah, do us a favor, hit that like button. We're almost on the 10-minute warning here before we hop off soon. So let's get those likes up. Hit that subscribe button as well if you're not already subscribed to the channel. We appreciate you guys as always.
We've got 10 unbeatens left.
Chris, I'm going to say this right now. I have no idea. I feel like we've asked this question 15 times in the past 3 days, and I still don't know what that number is of unbeatens. It was at one point like 12, 10, 9, 8. I think you're right, but
you got Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, Clemson, Syracuse, Ohio State, Michigan. I'm missing 3. UCLA.
Yeah, unless it's Ohio State.
Michigan.
Tennessee, of course.
Yeah, Tennessee.
And then there's one more. But
one
anyway,
more elusive one. All right, guys. Anything you want to talk about in the comments? Let us know. This is the time to keep asking your questions.
TCU.
And there you go, TCU. That was the one. Good call, Hunter. And we will get to them here again. Super chats available as well if you want to for sure have your comments seen. Super chat, and yes, we again appreciate you guys.
We haven't talked in depth about Vandy and Missouri yet.
No, we have not. I believe that was an administrative decision.
We did on the video.
We did on the preview. I'm fascinated by it because I said it's kind of like, have you seen on social media people talk about the post the Spider-Man meme where they're like pointing back at each other? I think this is what this game's like. Think if you're Vandy, the last 3 games you've seen Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia, they're going to look across and be like, "Oh, you look like me. Like we can we can do this. Let's go play when they play against Missouri. So I'm excited to see AJ Swan and that offense play against Missouri. I'm excited. It's gonna be good.
Here's the
maybe
problem
I would not totally count Vandy out in this because the last SEC game it won was against Missouri. Vanderbilt came off an awful 34-10 loss to an awful UNLV team and somehow beat a top 25 Missouri team the next week. I'm just saying occasionally crazy things happen. Vanderbilt played pretty well before it went to that gauntlet of Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia. And I think that, I don't know how to say it other than that. I think the overwhelmingness of the opposition just killed their No, the question is, do they have enough left to give Missouri a game? But anyway,
Missouri
I wouldn't. Point is,
with a double off the wall.
well, look, if I had to guess, I would Missouri is where I would put my money with the points if I did such a thing, which I don't. But I'm just saying, just when you think like it seems impossible that they could win a game there, you have a little bit of history in that series.
Here's something for going in Vandy's favor. AJ Swan has taken care of the football. 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The guy's not putting it in danger. Whereas Brady Cook, 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year. He will have a propensity to turn the football over. I think that's going to be interesting. But hey, it's an SEC football game. It's going to be interesting. The line's 13 points. I'm taking Vandy to cover it, even if they don't win. So I think that would be a good bet this week.
Over under on passing yards for Brady Cook, you might put it 300. I know that sounds crazy, but that is how bad Vanderbilt's pass defense is.
I'm just not there with you guys on this one. I think Missouri has had a chance to win their last 3 games. Now they haven't done it, right? But I just think they're another team that's playing just a lot better. And I think defensively, I think the Swan discussion is obviously valid in terms of him just not turning the ball over, and that's important, especially when you go on the road. But I don't know. I think we'll see what happened in the bye week, right? Like, 'cause everybody's like, all right, that was the best week. Like, that's it. And let's just, but I don't know. Missouri's actually, I mean, the Auburn Missouri game, as we said, it was not a showcase by any means for either side, but I just think Vanderbilt cannot stop anybody. I know this offense is not unstoppable, but I just don't feel I don't like this spot for Vanderbilt against the Missouri team coming off a bye that was actually playing pretty well for the most part the past several weeks. Get some rest now, maybe have a strong finish to perhaps have to save your coach's job. I don't know. So,
Brandon, there's no comparison in pass defenses. This Vanderbilt has quite possibly the worst SEC pass defense I have ever seen.
Oh man, it's crazy. Here, Tyler said there may be 15 fans in attendance at this game. So Columbia, who knows? We'll see how many people show up in Columbia. Anybody got anything to turn us back to? We talked about LSU and Ole Miss at the top of the hour. Anybody got anything on that one before we get out of here? I know I opened up the door on Vandy, Missouri, but I thought it deserved a couple of minutes there just to.
Well, I mean, it's an SEC football. If Vanderbilt wins that's a big game for them. If by chance Vanderbilt does win this, then you can probably start talking hot seat Eli Drinkwitz, because that fan base will be furious if they lose that game.
Will they though? That's what I'm wondering.
Oh, yes.
It seems like there's a lot of apathy there. I don't know how it was a proud, it seemed to be a proud program there. 2, SEC East titles back to back. And, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. If y'all had to say there was one statistic in the LSU Ole Miss game that if somebody could tell you, if you could predict one statistic that's going to say the most about that game, what would you say it is?
Turnovers is always the easy answer.
Yeah, we're not talking about turnovers. I wanted you to find something and pick something that I think
What would yours be?
Mine is going to be Mine's going to be yards per carry for Ole Miss. I think if LSU can hold it down to somewhere around 4 and just not let them absolutely go crazy with it, because they're going to have some big plays, but if consistently they can make a few in the backfield, some tackles for loss, stuff like that, and make Jackson Dart have to convert third downs passing the ball, I like LSU's chances like that. So,
well, here's the problem with that, Blayne. You take sacks out of it, and LSU's giving up 4.8 a carry.
Hey,
which that is why I like Ole Miss to win this game, among other things. I just look at that, and that's the best running team in the conference. Now, the thing that makes it a wild card is where it is, but I just look at these teams and how they match up, and I just like Ole Miss in this one.
Yeah, that's a fair point, but I don't know. I think LSU can also, what they could end up doing to help themselves, the second one behind how the yards per carry for Ole Miss is time of possession for LSU. Because if they can just keep Dart and Evans and them off the field, and Jaden Daniels can move the chains, then that could be a big factor as well.
Here's another one for you. I think the Mingo Booty stat line.
Mingo Booty.
And by the way, that's not one player. That's 2 players. Although if it was one player, I'd give him the Heisman right now. The Jonathan Mingo, Kayshawn Booty, like again, we're talking about that, right? In terms of both teams know you have to try to prevent what Jaden Daniels can do, maybe with his legs. LSU's defense against the Ole Miss rushing attack. But I'm curious to see if these 2 quarterbacks, again, they're going to have to throw the ball. Getting those guys, those 2 specifically, I think involved. That's another interesting stat to me, because we talked about the Booty making a comeback, and
a couple of weeks ago, the Mingo HO defense.
Yeah,
for
so I think those 2 guys are just as they're going to be very important too, as we know. So
I don't know why that's so funny, but it is.
All right. Anything else? Richard or Ricardo's comment here. No, I don't think we're there.
Not after last week. This. If State had any better history, I might entertain it, but like that just has not gone well. I don't know what it is about that matchup, but there's nothing in the recent past to indicate that one is a particularly close one at the end.
We talked about the 98 home run chase earlier. Alabama may treat this like McGuire and says they may be pumping people full of Andro before this game or something, like just get them hyped up, because they talked about no chanting and coming out anxious against Tennessee. It's going to be fully the opposite. I feel like Alabama is going to be absolutely bloodthirsty in this one.
All right,
here's for the record, we really like Mississippi State's team. I mean, that's been the team before the season. I said I thought that was the most underappreciated team in the league. But you just look at that matchup and you cannot find anything that makes you feel great about it.
And anyway, they lost by double digits at LSU and lost by double digits at Kentucky, which I know that can be a little deceiving based on late game plays and such. But that is still something, having to go on the road here, that doesn't help either, of course. All right, guys, this is our 2-minute warning. So anything else you want to throw at us, hit that like button, super chats, 2-minute warning to get those in. But here's a fun question we could perhaps finish off with. Harrison family has been enjoying the week off here for the Hogs. How about this? If you had to make the bet right now, would you bet, and I think I know which way you guys are going to go here, but more likely for an Alabama versus Georgia SEC championship or a Tennessee versus Ole Miss? I know where you're going. Let's have the discussion.
I mean, Alabama, Georgia, but I mean, I don't know. The West is going to be crazy. The West is what's going to be crazy. I think Georgia. Here's one thing I looked at when I watched that Alabama Tennessee game. I had to think to myself, man, Georgia's defense has to be better than these 2 defenses. That's what I thought to myself when I was watching that game. That's all I could think about.
Blake, I look at that's one of those like if you pick wrong and you look back and go, I'm an idiot for saying that, that's how I make a lot of my picks. And just based on history, it's hard to bet against Alabama and Georgia. But I like the fact that we're having this conversation in the middle of October, and it's not a crazy question. And that's what I've said all along. I think that is what makes this league so good, and people don't appreciate it. It's not just this, you got the two Darth Vaders battling at the top and everybody else is playing for third. You have real conversations this year, and it doesn't just involve Tennessee. Because yes, if Ole Miss wins this game, schedule, no schedule, they're right in the thick of it.
It's a fun question to think about. Like you said, we're having this conversation entering week 8. So that tells you, you got 4 top 10 teams here.
And hey, when LSU beats Ole Miss this weekend, they'll still control their destiny to the to Atlanta, So hey, there you go.
By the way, I'm going to bring
this
up.
Did you say win LSU?
Yeah,
because I could have sworn you, or did you say when Ole Miss wins? I'm sorry.
Oh, when LSU wins, I think LSU's going to win.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because that's what I thought you picked Sunday night. Go ahead. Sorry.
Listen, I think this Kentucky-Tennessee game, we cannot forget about that game either. I want to keep repeating that because I know a lot of people jumped off the Kentucky bandwagon, but I think that's a fun matchup. Again, knowing what Tennessee has going forward, we'll see how it plays out. But could have a lot of fun with that one too. So
I'm going to predict we rename Kentucky from the Wildcats to the Whirlpool because it just pulls everything to the middle. Like you don't blow Kentucky out, but they don't blow you out either.
They're like the Missouri, but they're like Missouri, but they win.
By the way, Tillman too coming back. That will, as we've talked about a lot over the past week. That's I just think we can't forget like what Tennessee can be with him on the field too now. Like it's ridiculous to think about. But again, I keep saying what they've done to this point without him and what Jalen Hyatt has become. Yeah, getting Tillman back, just an outstanding playmaker. That's another weapon to deal with. So,
you know what we've not done? We've not given our best bets.
Okay, let's do that quickly. You guys go ahead.
Over 60.5, Alabama, Mississippi State.
I got to pull up the lines here. Go ahead, Chris.
I think I'm with you. I think I like the over-under of 60.5, lay over on Ole Miss LSU.
Okay.
Is that crazy?
I like the under in that game, but that's just me.
I'll be honest. I don't look at anything this week that just jumps off the page at me as it has in past weeks. This is a weekend that's interesting to me because to me, there's not a lot that's crystal clear.
Agreed. I think that over in the Alabama Mississippi State game is probably the closest I would come to having what would be considered a best bet. But I'm kind of with you, Chris. I think there's a lot of stuff I'd stay away from if I was a better this week, but maybe that's why I'm not. So
the problem with State Alabama is State just has not scored in that series.
Yeah, I think they will this week a little bit. I think they will some, just because Alabama. It's not the issues that Alabama had against Tennessee weren't just against Tennessee. They've had those same issues crop up against Texas a little bit. There's been some other games in recent history that they've struggled to cover people. I think Mississippi State comes with a couple of plays that end up making some big gains, leading to some touchdowns, maybe a couple field goals. So I like Ole Miss. Not Ole Miss, Mississippi State to score somewhere around in between 17 and 21 points. And if they do that, then I think Alabama will definitely score enough to get that over the 60.5. So,
by the way, Chris, our
Blake,
show
I don't think
officially...
we got your best bet, did we?
No, I said the the closest I would go would be the over in the Alabama Mississippi State, but I don't feel confident
Yeah.
about any of them, to be honest with you. I
I'm
think
with you.
that's what I would probably go with. By the way, the official endorsement from Steak, we always have to have that. Our man Steak here loves the show. If Steak loves the show, everybody else got to love the show.
Hit the like button right now.
Hit the like button before we hop off here. We appreciate you guys. So yeah. All right, Chris, wrap it up.
Yeah, but before we go, we're hoping to start going daily very soon. We got a lot of things to iron out, but if we do, it'll be in the morning, probably 9 to 10 Central. If we do it, we'll make an announcement. We do this show live every Wednesday night at, 9 Eastern?
That's it. Correct,
Yeah,
Chris.
I mean, we're doing this right now, and I had to ask, where's my head? Anyway. Anyway. So
Live
there's that.
coming your way.
We usually live stream a couple times on Saturdays, depending on what's going on, depending on family schedules and such. And we usually do live stream Sunday night. And then we got all kinds of stuff during the week that is not a live stream. Previewing every game. We're starting to come with the basketball talk. Blake, did I leave anything out?
No. Again, be sure to that subscribe button. If you're just jumping in, you're not subscribed, do that. That means everything to us. And as well, hit that like button. As Chris said,
to you.
It's free, absolutely free. So you can do that. We appreciate all you guys in here and everything. And we will, again, make sure to watch all the videos here. And as Chris said, daily show coming at some point in the future, we hope. And that will be a lot of fun once we start doing that. So we can interact with you guys even more throughout the week. And we're not going to officially announce it, but perhaps a Halloween themed live stream coming your way at some point as well before Halloween. So you guys probably need to get ready for that. So
I'm just gonna be off camera and I'm gonna come as Vandy's pass defense.
Oh, there's one.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay. We started the show off with this tonight. We'll end it. We have a lot of fun at our channel, but just an awful day for the Mississippi State community. If you did not hear, Sam Westmoreland, their offensive lineman, died today suddenly. Awful thing. Anytime this happens to a team, to a family. His parents are Amanda and John Westmoreland. His sister is Marilyn. When you think of Mississippi State, say a prayer for that family and that community, because they're going to need as many of them as they can get. With that, thank you for watching. Have a great night. Have a wonderful weekend. We should see you again on Saturday. We will have some stuff coming out on our channel that's not live as we continue to roll out basketball previews and those sorts of things. And you never know what we'll come up with next. Sometimes we get ideas on the fly and we run with them. So anyway, thanks to everybody for watching. God bless you. Have a great night.